Game over for the planet. That's a quote from James Hansen at NASA, now retired NASA climate scientist. Game over for the planet. We have to leave these fossil fuels in the ground. But all these companies, all these fossil fuel companies, they have the fossil fuels that are in the ground already on their spreadsheets for all their future profit making. This is a huge issue. So Do the Math is just amazing. And it's a really good read. It's frightening because you can see that these corporations are going to do anything they can to get that remaining fossil fuels out of the ground. And clearly, we believe them, right? They've decided to buy our politicians. They have these front groups who are going in and truly trying to take away all that hard work we've done on the local and state level, passing these renewable energy policies. So, like I said, we have a lot of work ahead of us. We have to stay engaged on the local level. This is such the perfect example of what to do on the local level. I'm just so amazed at the work of Bill Baker. Just incredible myself. And then to have local council people like Ellen, it's just, that's vital. We have to fight on the local level. We have to engage. I was pretty engaged in my local community. I chaired the Green Commission. I recently stepped down because, well, I had too many things on my plate, but also my community is looking to pass solar zoning. I'm part of my company, Expedite Renewable Energy. I go into communities and I consult on wind and solar zoning. I talk about the need to pass progressive and aggressive, and I love when you use progressive and aggressive. I do that all the time. Legislation. So that when a resident says, hey, I'd like to install solar on my home, that it's not so hard for them to do as far as permitting. I can't even begin to explain the importance of that. Well, my community wants to pass solar zoning based on aesthetics. And they don't want you to be able to see the panels from your street or your sidewalk. And it's restricted solar zoning, and I'm just so still very upset about it. As I said before, and why it's so important to understand, solar and wind are very site-specific. So I can't promise that a resident won't have it on the front of their house. They're going to put it wherever it's going to make the best return on investment, generate the most power. So local government, get engaged, so important. But we also have to stay engaged on the state level. We have to stay engaged on the federal level. And we also have to look to the global community for examples, for understanding what other state governments, what other world governments are doing. So you've got to do that. And then a couple quick things that you can do today. Everyone always wants to know, well, what can I do today? So a couple quick things more on the national level. Right now you can comment on the draft environmental impact statement for the Keystone XL pipeline. The State Department came out with their draft environmental impact statement, and right now you can comment on it through Monday. You can go to ecowatch.com, go to our Keystone XL page, and it's super simple. It's through 350.org. Just add your name. You can put in your own comments if you want, or just use the ones they have. Also, Sunday night, you can also check on ecowatch.com. Sunday night, you can host something in your home or watch yourself. The Do the Math movie. So Bill McKibben came out with the Rolling Stone piece, Do the Math. It went the most viral piece ever in Rolling Stone history. He then went on the Do the Math tour and spoke in, I can't remember, like 30 different cities, explaining this huge issue of how all these companies have this fossil fuels that are still in the ground already on their spreadsheets for profits for coming years. And why we have to understand that more clearly, why colleges need to divest. I was part of divestment campaigns for apartheid when I was a student. They've kind of reignited that to have students try and get their colleges and universities divest from fossil fuels. Great campaign. So you can get engaged with the Do the Math, which is Sunday night. Also, the FDA Right now, the Food and Drug Administration is taking comments. They want to approve this company to make genetically engineered salmon. If you are engaged on the food front, go to EcoWatch Food or go to our petitions page. We have a petition there. If you sign that, that's a comment to the FDA. But on the personal level, as I've talked so much about policy, it's so important that individuals engage and become sustainable in their everyday life. So you can grow your own food, get a rain barrel, buy organic compost. I've turned my compost bin into a community compost, so anyone can come and use my compost pile because not everyone wants to have their own. Recycle. You know, give up as much plastic as you can. I gave up straws about 2 years ago. I gave up plastic bags at stores about 7 years ago. You know, I keep trying. It's so hard. I still have plastic in my home, shampoo bottles. What do you do? But there's so many ways that you can, you know, reduce usage, be energy efficient. I'm down to about 300 kWh a month in my home. Didn't do that much to get there. We weren't huge electricity users, but I went from about using nearly 800 kWh to 300. You know, get to know your electricity bill. I love mine. It's so easy to read. So there's so many things to do, but most important, we have to engage in our democracy. We live in a democratic country. Our politicians are supposed to act on what we want. We have to make sure they know what we want to really engage in our democracy and make sure that the laws and the bills and the legislation that goes through is really what's going to benefit all of us the most that's possible. So thanks for having me. I'm hoping there's a couple minutes still for questions.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you, Bill.
Sometimes I ask myself, why do you do all of these events and organization? It's because I get so much out of it. And your talk was very informative and inspiring, so thank you. And I've got a short list here of 7 things that I'd like to get to before we finish the day out, and they're very brief. And while we're doing the card collection, I asked you to fill out those small cards. I'm going to pass this bowl around, and I have to tell you that we thought about undermining the whole days of events. Bruce, the head maintenance person here who helped arrange today, thank you very much, Bruce. And Jonathan from Cleveland, who presented earlier on permaculture, we were in the kitchen, and there was kind of consensus that I should just run in here and use this as a helmet with a broom weapon and kind of undermine everything that we did today, so you'd know that we're just all crazy environmentalists and that we have no real cause. And we know that's not true because we've heard a lot of really, really good things today. I've learned as well. So I've got some cards from a friend of mine, Brian, at Sierra Club. There's blank ones if you haven't filled one out. They're easy to fill out. It's another form of action to reach out on protecting Ohio's renewable energy sources. So I'm just going to put those in the bowl and pass it around. So there's a couple things off the list. And we will get into questions and answers. That's right here. But I wanted to say also that if anyone has an announcement on an upcoming event, and there's one gentleman that said to me during the lunch break, well, I have some solar panels that I would like to get rid of. So during this question and answer period, I would also like to make available some introductions. If you are green specific and you haven't been introduced, please feel free to mention who you are, that folks can connect up with you after the event. And I'm also going to, when I get the cards back, we'll do these little giveaways that I've got. Again, big thank yous to everyone who attended, participated. I do want to recognize once again Nolan Moser of the Ohio Environmental Council. Steph Johnson of the Environmental Law and Policy Center from Chicago. They've really been coordinating with me. They helped to bring Stefanie down as our speaker today. And of course, very, very pleased that you could make it. Ellen, thank you so much for coming. And your piece was excellent, very informative. It's important to know what's going on at the local level. And that, I mean, our governments should be at every level concerned about our energy consumption and the way that we generate it. The front table as you go out, and we're not quite done with today, but I did put some various literature out there on the way out, upcoming event. There's some my cards out there if you don't have my contact information. There's some of these. Frac Free Ohio is the group that was formed to try to prevent that toxic waste dumping in Mansfield last year. And the grassroots effort was very successful in collaborating with local government. This year, I thought that I would be relieved of my responsibilities with that group and move on to some other initiative, but the group has decided that we would embrace sustainable alternatives as part of our education process. So I just wanted to give a brief plug and let you know that there's a connect on there for the Facebook group. If you want to join into that group, just put a request in, and I think the admin would probably approve you. Great discussions, not just about fracking and injection wells, but also the solutions and what we can do to have a healthier environment. Once we finish with a short Q&A period and I give away the gifts, and we have introductions, Janet Ellsworth, one of the instructors here, give everybody a hand wave, has been gracious enough to be here throughout the day and is going to give tours of the building. We'll give a nice tour so you can all get a look at this amazing jewel that we've got here in Mansfield as well. So let's open up for question and answers.